From folklore and fairies
to monsters and mysteries, it came from the Maritimes.
Hi everyone, welcome to It Came From The Maritimes. I'm Chelsea and this is my co-host Evan.
Howdy.
We have a Maritime Mini for you today. Now this story has been requested by many listeners, so I hope to do the tale justice. Evan, have you heard it before?
I don't think I have.
No, it's a well-known folklore / urban legend from Moncton, New Brunswick. So I'm excited to share it.
Fair enough.
In Moncton, New Brunswick, not too far off the beaten path, there is a concrete pad set in the ground off of Gorge Road. Blink while driving down the road and you'll miss it. This spot has a sinister story associated with it, but perhaps the scariest part of this tale is how it's been altered over time in its retelling. In southeastern New Brunswick in 1876, conditions were harsh and folks were struggling after a dry summer. The bountiful crops they relied on had withered in the cruel heat, and people were nervous about the impending winter months. People grew more desperate as consumption, now known as tuberculosis, ravaged the townsfolk. Odd things started to happen. Animals went missing, only to be found slaughtered with mangled corpses left behind. Now, in reality, neighbors were likely stealing from each other due to the desperate conditions, taking whatever meat they could from the animals before leaving their remains. But folks were superstitious, and some assumed a sinister force was at play. Now, there are no records of anyone actually being disciplined for this during the time, but as the decades passed, a legend was born all because of this mysterious concrete patch on the side of the road.
Okay, you have my interest.
Right, let's dive into the folk tale. A 16-year-old girl named Rebecca lived in the area. And local lore states that as Moncton faced the dire situation that hot summer, people looked at her as the person to blame. Over the last century, rumors circulated about her being a young witch who was responsible for the animal mutilations and crop failures. The legend states that she was hanged as a witch and buried face down with her grave, covered in concrete to prevent her from clawing through to the surface. Now, that's the legend, but local historians disagree wholeheartedly with this folktale. They state that there were no records of witch trials at that time, and they don't believe that people would be reduced to these superstitions as recently as the late 1800s. I feel like people very likely could have been that superstitious, but there's no record of the story having actually taken place.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things where it's like, people can be superstitious about a lot of things, but it's weird. You'd think there would be a record if
Exactly.
there was.
The historians believe this legend was born from the fact that folks wanted a story to explain the curious concrete-covered grave on the Lutz property, and the story simply devolved over time. So it kind of reminds me of Catherine McIntosh's grave in the sense that there's like an abandoned gravesite, except that gravestone was really well maintained by locals, whereas this one was sadly vandalized.
Oh, that's too bad.
So what fate did Rebecca actually meet? She died from tuberculosis on January 2nd, 1876, and was buried in what was at the time the family burial site. She had terrible fevers leading up to her passing, so people think that if there were any odd behavior she was exhibiting, it was likely because of that.
That would make sense.
Right? Now, how did the grave end up covered in concrete? It wasn't, as people have said, to contain a sinister witch, but what happened is when the Lutz sold their property, they covered any of the grave sites with a concrete cap to protect them from future development.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and sadly, the gravestones themselves were destroyed by vandals in the 1980s. So the gravestones are gone, but the concrete cap remains. This curious concrete block certainly inspired a wild array of tales. Folks say that her spirit haunts Gorge Road on moonless nights. And if they don't see the spirit of Rebecca herself, they at least see unusual lights floating around. Others claim to have seen a black cat sitting upon the concrete, which will disappear in the blink of an eye. Now, cats are very sneaky, so I would personally assume that's just a black cat.
I was about to say, especially at nighttime, but
Right.
You never know.
Some have claimed that bloody pools appear on the concrete, only to fade away just as quickly, and others claim that after visiting the gravesite, their car headlights will not turn on. So is the story of Rebecca's grave a chilling folktale or an exaggerated local legend? I'll let you come to your own conclusions. Either way, if you decide to visit Rebecca's grave the next time you're in Moncton, ensure you pay your respects just in case.
Fair enough.
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of It Came From The Maritimes. You can find us on social media on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at It Came From The Maritimes, on Blue Sky at ICFT Maritimes. And if you have any Atlantic Canada folklore you would like to see covered in future episodes, or any spooky encounters of your own, email us at itcamefromthemaritimes@gmail.com. We are on Patreon, so check that out if you want bonus content. And if you enjoy our podcast, please leave us a 5-star rating and review to help other folklore lovers find us. Thank you for listening.
Bye.